Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today's topic is going to be Social Security. Bernie Sanders has been traveling and giving speeches, and he has been talking a lot about Social Security. I'm going to show you guys this clip, and we're going to talk about how Social Security works, because, in my opinion, one of the main issues that I see, particularly when I receive responses in the comments from people who are discussing Social Security, reforming Social Security, and expanding Social Security, is that I frequently see people writing things, and I know that they don't understand the entirety of Social Security. We're going to focus on raising the cap in this video, but before we do, please do me two favors. Watch the video and subscribe to the channel. Alright, let me go ahead and click over here. Bernie Sanders will be talking about raising the cap, and he's said this many times. I want to talk about what he is explaining in this video, as well as the pros and cons, like how I am this realistic. This is on Twitter. Alright, let's get started. Republicans will tell you that Social Security will go bankrupt in a certain number of years, but that is untrue because the majority of the money goes into the trust fund every day. What is the solution? It's not difficult, and I have legislation to do just that. If someone in America makes $16 million a year, which is a lot of people do, and someone who makes about $160,000 a year, who pays more into the Social Security Trust, everyone knows that they make the same amount because Social Security taxes are capped at roughly $165,000. So if you make more than that, you don't pay any more than someone who makes $165. Then we can do two things. First, we can raise the cap and demand that the wealthiest people start paying their share. First, we can increase Social Security benefits for all beneficiaries by a considerable amount. Secondly, we can increase Social Security's solvency for an additional 75 years. All right, so that was speaking about Social Security reform and an increase in Social Security benefits. Senator Bernie Sanders stated that raising the cap would accomplish two goals. First, it would give recipients of Social Security benefits an increase. Second, it would extend the program for an additional 75 years. That sounds good. And now he's saying that we need to do this by raising the cap because the numbers are currently a little bit different. I don't know when this video was posted, but right now, if you make more than $168,000, you no longer have to contribute. You no longer have to pay FICA. Okay? And your employer no longer matches that FICA. And so if you were to raise the cap, then that would mean that people making over $168,000 would have to still contribute to FICA. And if they're contributing to F, that would mean the Social Security Administration, or the trust funds, would have more money to pay out benefits. And so that's what he's trying to explain there. Now the good news is that it would work. The bad news is you're trying to push this through a Congress that relies on donors. They rely heavily on donors, and a lot of the donors are wealthy. And so if you're wealthy, you're going to say, no, I don't want to pay. Because he gave that example of the person who's making $16 million, or the person who's making $160,000, who pays more well. Currently now, they pay about the same. Right, because of once you get over $168,000, you no longer have to pay in. And so, let's just say if you make $168,000, or if you make $16 million, you contribute the same amount to Social Security. And so, the only issue with this, actually, two issues. One is the wealthy people, because they're donors. You're going to have politicians that are going to look at that fact, and they're going to say, well, I don't want to raise, and this is what they call it's a contribution. But they'll say, I don't want to raise taxes on wealthy people. Because if I raise taxes on wealthy people, they're not going to donate to my campaign. And that's the reality. That's what we're hearing. That's what we're seeing. Okay, that's what these politicians are out there saying. They don't want to raise taxes on wealthy people. Some politicians are saying, let's do it. Senator Bernie Sanders is saying, let's do it. But you have politicians that know that if they want to continue running in races, they need money. And a lot of that money is coming from wealthy donors. Okay, so that's one thing. Number two is if you raise the cap. Because right now, we have a cap on Social Security benefits, and that cap is, if you work until you're 70, it'll be about $4,600. That is the maximum. You can't receive more than that. And so if we were in a situation where we raise the cap, so people making over $168, they have to start contributing again, then we would have to raise the benefits. So you would no longer have a maximum of it. 45 or 4,600, it would go up. And so people who are wealthy, really wealthy, they're going to be getting, it would be crazy, I don't know how they would do the calculations, but it would be crazy to look at how much they would be receiving. They might be receiving $6,000 or $7,000 in Social Security benefits a month. Now, another thing that's been talked about is, well, we can still do it. We can still raise the cap, but then we can means test the program. And so what that would mean is the people who are making more money, and they means test the program already, but they would do it even more. So that, let's say, if you make 16 million a year and you're still contributing to Social Security because they've raised the cap, well, you wouldn't be receiving that much. You would only be receiving, let's say you're still receiving 4,600, and then the bottom half, the people who are below the poverty line, they would raise those people up. So that's what means testing is. But the only problem with means testing and what they're talking about now, because you have like the Heritage Foundation, they're talking about, yes, we need to means test Social Security, but they're not talking about raising the cap. They're talking about raising the full retirement age, means test Social Security, maybe make some cuts here or there. And so if they're means testing it without raising the cap, then that's going to really impact the middle class. And so let's say you work 30 or 40 years. You're making pretty good money. You're contributing to Social Security. You're now at the top end of the benefits every month. You would get cut. Your Social Security businesses will be cut. And then the people who are below the poverty line, they would be lifted up. And so that's without raising the cap. Now, if you raise the cap, then the middle class might be okay. Because you have people that are, they're contributing, but they're making a lot more money. They're millionaires. And so those people would see a drastic cut, and maybe the middle class wouldn't see such a steep cut. So that's what they're talking about right now. That's what Bernie Sanders wants to do. He wants to raise the cap. We've heard him talk about this. We've actually heard President Biden say the same thing. We need to raise the cap, but they're using different metrics. Some will say, let's raise a cap on people making $168,000, and Bernie Sanders has a proposal out right now where he wants to raise the cap on people making over $250,000. President Biden says, no, I don't want to tax anyone making less than $400,000. So if we raise the cap, it's going to have to be on people making over $400,000. And that goes along with the Social Security 2100 Act. So, Representative Larson's plan. So, it's be 400 over 400,000. You would have to start contributing again. So that's what we're looking at right now. And one more thing that I want to say, and this is another reason why you might have some politicians shy away from raising the cap, is that businesses would have to match. And so let's say someone is making $16 million a year and you've raised the capital on them. So now they need to contribute. So they're going to be contributing the 6.2%. And guess what? Their employer has to match the 6.2%. And so now that person that is making $16 million a year, that's 6.2% of that $16 million, and then their employer has to match the 6.